So this is the unreadable words and invisible letters experiment. In front of me on the table here, I know you can't read it, but I do have some writing. In a few seconds we're going to bring this up on screen in front of you because this is what I want you to do. We're going to split this into two parts. In a few seconds we're going to bring up two triangles side by side. In each triangle there's one sentence. As soon as you see it, I'm going to give you a countdown. As soon as you can see it, I want you to read as quickly as you can what you can see in each triangle. Okay, I'm not going to leave the picture up for long, so you've got to read it fast. Ready? So this is the first experiment. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so hopefully you read those two sentences. The next thing I want you to do, in a few moments again, to a countdown, I'm going to bring up a sentence. It's a whole sentence written on 4 lines. It's going to be right in front of you, nothing else on screen, as quickly as you can. I don't want you to read it, as quickly as you can on the count of 3, 2, 1. When we bring it up, I want you to scan through the sentence quickly as you can, line by line, and count how many letter F's you can see. That's F for Freddy, F for flower. How many F's you can see. Okay, remember no reading, fast as you can. 3, 2, 1, go. Remember no reading, keep checking. Hopefully you're counting them all by now. Great. Okay, now of course I don't know what you noticed, but I can tell you what most people notice when you do it to a big group, say. So in the two triangles, most people read them as, the first one, I love Paris in the springtime, and the second one, a bird in the hand. They actually don't say that. I'm going to bring them back up on screen, and this time read them more slowly and more carefully to see what they actually say. Ready? It's coming up now. Looking at the one on your left, that's the one that many people think say, I love Paris in the springtime, but if you look really carefully, it actually says, I love Paris in the springtime. 2 the's, in other words. And the same effect on the other triangle on your right, if you have a look. It looks like, to many people, a bird in the hand, but it actually says a bird in the hand. How could they miss it? Dear, dear. Now, what about the other sentence I asked you to look through? Remember, you weren't supposed to read it, you were supposed to look through and count how many letter F's you saw. Most people in a group, when they do this experiment, if they go through really quick as I asked you, see 3. If you said put your hand up how many saw 3, most people put their hand up and they see them in the words finished, files and scientific. Okay? But there are actually 3 more, which some people see one of them, maybe 2, but rarely do people see all of them. And they're in the word of. O-F. Now the word of appears 3 times. We'll put it back up on screen for you and you can have a look for yourselves. Okay, so how is it we miss such obvious things right in front of your eyes? Most people do, as I've said. Let's think about the first example, the sentences in triangles. How come you missed that word there? Well, it's really interesting because people who've got used to reading, so really school children upwards, people are used to reading. When they read, quite often they don't read every word, they scan quickly. And their brain doesn't necessarily pay so much attention to the short, familiar words that we see lots, such as the word the, of, and, at, in, lots of little words like that. Sometimes your brain just quickly glosses over them, if you like. You don't really see them clearly. What your brain is trying to do is get a sense of meaning of the whole sentence. So the sentence, for example, I love Paris in the springtime, when you looked at that, you looked at it quickly. Remember, that was my instruction, read it quickly. Your brain really wanted to get a sense of what the sentence actually said. So you look really quick, Some scientists say probably your brain possibly did see both of the thes, but decided that one of them wasn't important because it didn't make sense and it ignored it. So you didn't see it in some ways, or at least you didn't think you saw it. But some scientists say you actually do see it in your brain, if you like, and your brain decides to filter it out so you don't become aware of it in your own mind when you're thinking right now listening to me. The same would apply to the other sentence, a bird in the hand, same thing. It's a familiar word, your brain probably saw it, but it didn't make sense in the sentence. A bird in the hand, that doesn't even make sense. So your brain wanted to get a sense of what the sentence actually was meaning. That's why you probably ignored it as well. In the case of the longer sentence, finished files, etc., remember most people don't notice all of the letter F in the word of. Now we think there's probably two reasons for this. The first reason is a bit like the first one I just mentioned for the triangles. The of is a little word. So some scientists might say, well, it's a familiar word, we use it a lot, it joins the sentence together. Maybe you didn't notice it because your brain was paying more attention to the less familiar words, the more complicated words, and it was a big sentence as well. Probably that's part of the explanation, I think. But a more interesting part of the explanation, which I think is more important on this one, is think of the sound of the letter F that it usually makes. Well, you know it makes a F sound. Now, I don't know if you've ever thought of it like this before, but letters can be thought of as pictures of sounds. Think about it. So you write the letter F, what you're doing is drawing a little picture of the sound, usually F. Usually words, when we want a F sound, we use the letter F to represent that sound. So what we think could be happening is your brain was reading through, well, not actually reading, scanning through the letters, but because those are really pictures of sounds, your brain was probably thinking, look for sounds that F usually makes. Well, F usually makes a F sound, as it does in the words finished, files, scientific. They're the ones that everybody usually sees. But look at the word of. What sound is F making there? Not F. There's a V sound in that word. So scientists think, well, maybe because it's making a V sound, your brain thinks, no, that can't be it. Wrong sound. And ignores it. Because I said, look for the word F. And I actually said, look for words with F in. And I actually said, F for flower. So I was actually making you even think the sound it usually makes. Now, you know it sometimes that makes the V sound, but you probably didn't think it at the time. So we think maybe you're scanning through, it had the wrong sound that you usually expect the F to have, and that's probably why you didn't notice it. Some people see the of, or the F in of, towards the end of the sentence. We think that could be because where your eye comes to stop when you stop reading it, and maybe the F is just in your field of view, right in the middle of where you're looking, and some people see that one a bit more easily. Okay, so what variables could you try? What things could you change in both cases? Well, there's two experiments here really, isn't it? Of course, the first one you could do with the words and sentences in the triangles is maybe rewrite those sentences. I wonder, for example, do you remember I had the words the on different sentences in both triangles? I wonder what would happen if you put the words the next to each other on the same line. I wonder what would actually happen, thinking about it, if instead of writing the sentences I love Paris in the springtime and a bird in the hand in a triangle, write it along a line, just as you would if you were writing a book. I wonder, would that still trick people, do you think? Or do you think it needs to be written in a triangle? Maybe you can think of some other things on that one. In the case of the longer sentence, finished files, etc., how about you make up your own sentence, make sure it's written well, makes sense, give it to your English teacher to have a look at possibly, that includes words, bigger words, like the word finished, with an F in that word, which does have a F sound. And make sure, though, that sentence does include lots of ofs if you can. So you've got 3 or 4 of the word of. So you have a nice sentence written like the one you saw earlier that you've made up yourself with a mixture of words with 2 or 3 words of in it and 2 or 3 or more words with the letter F, which does actually have the F sound in the word as well. And try that one on people as well and see if they can see all the Fs, as you just did in my one.